I have two sons. Ryan is 17, almost 18 now. Tyler is 16. Jess is 16 too. And yes, I know how that sounds already. It sounds bad. It is bad. But the way everything actually happened, it wasn't one clean moment where everything broke. It was like small cracks that I didn't take seriously enough until the whole thing just gave out. I keep replaying stupid things now. Tiny things. Stuff I brushed off because there were always bigger problems at the time. Money, mostly. My husband works, I work, and somehow it still always felt like we were one bad week away from falling behind again. Ryan noticed that early. I wish I could say I told him to stay out of it, but I didn't. It started small, him coming home with groceries once. I remember the first time, actually. He set the bags down like it was nothing and said, they had a discount on this stuff. I didn't even ask where the money came from right away. I just felt relief. That's the part that sits wrong with me now. Relief first, questions later. After that, it just became normal. He picked up little jobs at first, helping neighbors, fixing things, whatever people would pay him for. Then, once he was old enough, he got an actual job. Evening shifts, weekends, sometimes both. I told myself it was good for him. Responsibility, work ethic. All those things parents are supposed to be proud of. And I was proud, I just didn't really look too closely at what it was costing him. Tyler, on the other hand, he's always been different. Not a bad kid. I need to make that clear. But he's the kind that acts first and figures it out later. Or doesn't figure it out at all and just hopes things settle on their own. There were little things over the years. Teachers calling because he skipped a class here and there. Nothing major, just enough to be annoying. Borrowing money and not paying it back unless someone reminded him 3 times. That kind of thing. Ryan would get irritated. I remember one night at the table, Tyler laughing about something stupid he'd done at school, and Ryan just went quiet. Didn't say anything, just stared at his plate. I should have said something then. I didn't. Because again, there was always something else. Jess came into the picture about 2 years ago. Ryan brought her over the first time, and I remember thinking she seemed sweet, quiet, but not shy in a bad way, just soft-spoken. She fit into the house easily. Too easily, maybe. She'd sit in the living room with Ryan while he did homework, or sometimes she'd be in the kitchen with me just talking about random things. School, friends, nothing serious. Tyler was around, obviously. At first it was normal, just siblings and a girlfriend in the same house. Then, I don't know. Looking back, there were moments. Nothing huge, that's the frustrating part. If it had been obvious, I would have stepped in. I would have. But it was things like Tyler lingering longer than necessary when Ryan stepped out. Jess is laughing a little too hard at something Tyler said. Ryan coming home late from work and Jess already being there, sitting on the couch, Tyler across from her, both of them looking up a little too fast. I told myself I was reading into it. Because who wants to think that? And Ryan trusted them. That's the part that keeps coming back to me. He trusted them enough not to even consider it. There was this one evening, it keeps popping into my head lately. Ryan had picked up an extra shift. He looked exhausted, honestly. He was standing by the door, grabbing his jacket, and Jess said something like, "You're working again." And he just smiled a little and said, "Yeah, just for a few hours." Tyler was sitting on the couch, scrolling on his phone, and he said, "Man, you're always working." Ryan shrugged like it didn't matter, like it was just what he did. I didn't say anything then either. Didn't tell him to take a break. Didn't tell Jess to go home. Didn't tell Tyler to. I don't even know. Be aware. Be respectful. I just let the moment pass. Because, again, there was always something else to deal with. Bills, work, life. It sounds like excuses when I say it now. Maybe it is. The pregnancy. That's when everything snapped into place in the worst way possible. Jess told Ryan first. I wasn't there for that conversation, but I saw the aftermath. He came home, and something was off immediately. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong. You know how you can tell when someone's trying to hold everything in at once, that kind of tight silence. He didn't even look at me right away, just walked past and went to his room. I followed him after a minute because, of course, I did. I asked what was going on, and he said, "Jess is pregnant." I started asking questions right away. Too many, probably. When did you find out? Are you sure? What are you going to do? And he just stood there, not answering properly, just short responses. One word, maybe two. Then he said something that didn't make sense at the time. I don't think it's mine. I remember staring at him like, what? I actually thought he meant he was in denial or something, like he was overwhelmed and trying to push it away. I said, "Ryan?" And he shook his head. "Not fast, just once. We never did anything," he said. That took a second to land. I felt my stomach drop, but not in a clear way yet. Just that uneasy feeling like something isn't lining up. I asked him what he meant, and he didn't really explain it further. Just said they hadn't gone that far. And then he said, "She's messed up. I thought maybe something happened to her." The way he said it, quiet, careful, it made me stop pushing for a moment, because my mind went somewhere else entirely, something bad, something serious. I told him we needed to talk to her, that we couldn't just assume things, that if something happened, and he cut me off with, "I know." But he didn't look convinced. He looked conflicted. Like he didn't believe it himself, but didn't want to say the alternative out loud. That night felt like it lasted forever. Jess came over later. I don't even remember who asked her to come. Maybe Ryan did, maybe I did. It all blends together. She looked nervous, pale, couldn't sit still. Ryan was watching her the whole time. Not angry, not yet, just watching. I asked her about the pregnancy. She nodded. Said she had taken a test, then another. I asked her if she had been with anyone else, and that's when everything shifted. She hesitated. It wasn't long, just a second, maybe two, but it was enough. Ryan saw it. I saw it. The room felt heavy all of a sudden. I asked again, more directly this time. "Jess, have you been with someone else?" She looked at Ryan first, not at me. That's what made it worse. Because it wasn't confusion, it was fear. And then she said yes. Everything after that, it didn't happen slowly. It was like everything that had been sitting under the surface just came up all at once. Ryan didn't react right away. Not the way I expected. He didn't shout. He didn't move. He just stood there, staring at her, like he was trying to make sense of something that didn't fit no matter how he turned it. I started asking questions again. Who? When? How? My voice sounded too loud in the room. Jess was crying at that point, trying to explain, but it wasn't clear. Just pieces. Mistakes. Didn't mean for it to happen. Didn't think. And then she said the name, Tyler. I swear there was a moment where my brain just refused to process it. Like, no, that doesn't make sense. That's not what she said. But Ryan heard it. And the way he turned? I don't think I've ever seen that look on his face before. Not even when he was younger and got hurt or upset. This was something else entirely. He didn't say anything at first. He just walked out of the room. And for a second, I thought maybe he was leaving. Just walking away from it. But then I heard Tyler's voice from the hallway. And Ryan's footsteps getting faster. And that's when I realized, too late, what was about to happen. I got to the hallway just in time to see Ryan reach Tyler. It wasn't some drawn-out thing. 1 second, Tyler was leaning against the wall, phone in his hand, looking confused. The next, Ryan had him by the front of his shirt and shoved him back so hard his head hit the wall with a dull thud. Jess was behind me, crying, saying his name over and over like that was going to stop anything. I remember saying, "Ryan," but it didn't come out strong. It came out like I already knew I wasn't going to reach him. Tyler pushed back, instinct more than anything. "What the hell?" Ryan hit him. Not wild, not flailing, one clean punch straight to his face. Tyler stumbled, hit the side table, knocked something over. I don't even remember what. There was this split second where everything just tilted. Then it got messy. Tyler swung back. Missed. Ryan shoved him again. They were both yelling now, overlapping, words crashing into each other. Are you serious? How long?" I couldn't even separate it. My husband came in from the other room, asking what was going on, and then it was just noise. Jess crying, me trying to get between them and not really committing to it because I was scared of getting caught in the middle. And Ryan, he wasn't stopping. It wasn't just anger, it was something deeper, something that had been sitting there waiting for a reason. That's when my dad showed up. I don't even remember calling him. Maybe I did, maybe my husband did. Maybe he just heard the noise from outside. He lives close enough for that. But he was there suddenly, grabbing Ryan from behind, pulling him back with more force than I expected. He said, "Enough," loud enough that it cut through everything. Ryan struggled for a second, trying to get free, still reaching for Tyler like he hadn't finished what he started. Tyler stayed where he was, breathing hard, one hand on his face, eyes wide, not just from getting hit, but from what it meant. Because there was no taking it back at that point. Not the punch, not the truth. My dad held on to Ryan, not letting go even when Ryan stopped trying to lunge forward. "Look at me," he said. Ryan didn't. He just stood there, chest rising fast, staring at Tyler like he was seeing a stranger. "Look at me," my dad repeated. Slowly, Ryan did. And whatever my dad saw on his face, it made him tighten his grip just a little. "Walk away," he told him. Ryan let out this short, empty laugh. Not even humor, just disbelief. "Walk away," he said. No shouting, no heat. That almost made it worse. My dad didn't argue, just nodded once. "Yeah." There was a pause. A long one. Then Ryan pulled himself out of my dad's grip, not violently this time, just done, and stepped back. He looked at Tyler one more time. I expected yelling. Something explosive. But all he said was, "You're dead to me." And then he walked past all of us. Jess tried to reach for him. "Ryan, please." He didn't even look at her. That silence, it followed him out of the house. The door closing didn't feel loud, it felt permanent. The house didn't settle after that, it just shifted into something worse. Tyler sat down eventually, still holding his face, not saying much. My husband tried to talk to him, asking what happened and how this even started, and Tyler just kept saying, "I don't know, it just happened." That phrase again and again like it meant anything. Jess stayed near the doorway for a while, like she wasn't sure if she should go after Ryan or stay and deal with what she'd just said out loud. I didn't know what to do with her. Part of me wanted her out of the house immediately. Another part kept looking at her and thinking, she's 16, she's pregnant, what now? I told her to sit down. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. That's something I do when things get too much. I get practical. What exactly happened? I asked her. Not emotional, not comforting, just needing facts. She kept crying while she tried to explain, words tripping over each other, saying it wasn't planned, that it only happened a couple of times, that she didn't know how to tell Ryan. And Tyler just sat there, staring at the floor, didn't deny it, didn't explain, just there. I remember looking at both of them and feeling this heavy, sinking realization. This wasn't something we could undo. There was a baby coming. And suddenly everything shifted from what they did to what happens now. That's where I think things started to go wrong with Ryan and us. Because while he was still in that moment, betrayal, anger, shock, we had already started thinking ahead. School, doctors, money, parents, consequences, real things that don't wait for feelings to settle. Ryan didn't come back that night. He didn't answer his phone either. I called, texted, nothing. At some point, my dad told me to stop. He said, "He's not coming back tonight." I asked him how he could be so sure. He just looked at me and said, "Because if he does, it won't be to talk." I didn't like that answer. But he wasn't wrong. The next morning felt wrong. Too quiet. Ryan's room was empty. Bed untouched. Some of his stuff is gone, not everything, just enough to make it clear he didn't leave in a rush without thinking. Tyler stayed in his room most of the day. Jess went home early in the morning after we told her we needed to talk to her parents. That was another mess waiting to happen. My husband kept pacing, sitting down and standing up again, saying we needed to fix this without having any idea what that even meant. I kept going back and forth between worrying about Ryan and trying to deal with what was right in front of us. Because ignoring Tyler and Jess wasn't an option, not with a pregnancy involved. That sounds cold when I say it like that, but it's the truth. At some point that afternoon, my dad came back, and Ryan was with him. He walked in behind my dad like he didn't belong there anymore, didn't look at anyone, didn't say anything. He went straight to his room and started packing. Not aggressively, not throwing things around, just methodical. Clothes, charger, a couple of books, stuff he actually cared about. I followed him in. "Ryan," I said. He didn't respond. "Can we talk?" Nothing. He zipped his bag, picked it up, then finally looked at me. And I wasn't ready for how empty his expression was. Not angry, not sad, just shut off. He said, "I'm staying at Grandpa's," like it was already decided, not something up for discussion. I told him we could figure this out. That leaving wasn't necessary, that we just needed time to. "I'm not staying here," he said, still calm, still flat. I tried again. "You don't have to deal with them right now, we can. They're your problem," he cut in. That stung more than I expected. "Ryan, I'm done," he said. No raised voice, no hesitation, just done. I think that's when I realized this wasn't something that was going to pass in a week or two, but I still didn't understand how far he was going to take it. I told him he couldn't just leave like that this was still his home. He gave this small shake of his head. Not anymore. And then he walked past me. My dad was waiting in the hallway. They didn't say anything to each other. They didn't need to. As they were leaving, my husband tried to step in. "Ryan, you need to calm down and think this through." Ryan didn't even slow down, and my dad, my own father, looked straight at my husband and said, "You don't get to say that right now." That started something, because my husband didn't like that, not at all. But he didn't push it in that moment, because Ryan was already out the door, again. And this time, it didn't feel like he was coming back at all. The house felt different after that, not just quieter, hollow, like something important had been pulled out of it. And I don't just mean emotionally. Ryan did a lot more than I think we ever really admitted out loud. The first week without him made that painfully clear. Groceries didn't stretch as far. Bills felt tighter. Little things stopped getting done. Stuff he used to just handle didn't happen unless we forced it. And I started noticing it in ways I hadn't before. Opening the fridge and realizing we were already low. Looking at a bill and mentally calculating what we had left. That constant, low-level stress came back fast. I didn't connect it to him right away, not consciously, but it was there. And at the same time, Tyler and Jess were still there, still needing something, still part of this mess that wasn't going anywhere. We talked to her parents. That was ugly. Accusations, blame, and anger from both sides. But in the end, it came back to the same thing. There was a baby coming. And whether anyone liked it or not, Tyler was responsible for that. So were we, in a way. That's what I kept telling myself. You don't abandon your kid when they mess up this badly. You deal with it. You fix what you can. You support them through it, even if it's ugly. Even if it hurts someone else in the process. Ryan didn't see it that way. To him, there wasn't anything to work through. No middle ground, no slow adjustment, no healing phase where everyone eventually sits in the same room again and pretends things are manageable. He cut it clean. And he meant it. At first, I thought it was shock, anger, something that would burn out after a few weeks, a month maybe. People cool off, they come back, they start talking again, even if it's awkward. That's what I kept telling myself. That's what I told my husband too, whenever he got that tight look on his face and said, he'll come around. Except, Ryan didn't come around. Not after a week, not after a month, not after several. If anything, he got more distant. He blocked Tyler completely. Phone, social media, everything. Tyler tried at first texts, calls, even showing up outside my parents' house once. Ryan walked right past him like he wasn't there. Didn't stop, didn't look, nothing. Tyler stood there afterwards, hands in his pockets, staring at the ground like he was waiting for something to hit him, but nothing did. He came home quieter after that, not thoughtful, but quiet. Not reflective, just smaller. Jess tried too. That one, I didn't even know about until later. She told me she messaged Ryan saying she wanted to explain properly, that she didn't want him to hate her like this, that she was sorry. He replied once, just once. She showed me the message because she didn't know what to do with it. It said, I'm not going to talk to you like this. You're pregnant. I'm not getting dragged into something I'll regret. Stay away from me. That was it, she cried when she showed me. Said that was worse than if he had just yelled at her. And I didn't know what to say to that, because part of me agreed. Life didn't pause for any of us. That's the thing no one prepares you for. Something blows up like this, and you think everything will stop, but it doesn't. Bills still show up. Work still expects you there. Appointments still need to be made. Jess's pregnancy became the center of everything, whether we liked it or not. Doctor visits, planning, figuring out what support she needed, what Tyler needed to do, what we needed to step in for. My husband leaned into it hard. He kept saying, we have to be there for him. He's still our son. And I agreed. I still agree. But there's a part of that agreement that I don't like admitting out loud. It felt like we were choosing a direction and just committing to it, no matter what it cost on the other side. And the cost was Ryan. We just didn't say it like that. We said things like, he'll understand eventually. Or, he's just hurt right now. Or the worst one, he's always been the reasonable one. I said that more than once. I didn't think about how that sounded from his side. I thought I was complimenting him, recognizing who he's always been. But every time I said it, my dad would look at me like I'd said something completely wrong, and one day, he finally said it out loud. You don't get to lean on that now, he told me. We were in his kitchen. Ryan wasn't even there. What do you mean? I asked. He set his mug down a little harder than necessary. I mean, you don't get to call him the reasonable ones, like, that's a reason for him to accept this. I felt defensive right away. I'm not saying he has to accept it. You are, he cut in. No, I'm not. You are, he repeated, calmer this time, which somehow made it worse. You just don't like how it sounds when it's said straight. I didn't know what to say to that. Because I wanted to argue, but I also knew there was something in it that didn't sit right. He kept going. You've been leaning on him for years, he said. And now when something like this happens, you're surprised he's not standing there holding everything together again. That hit. We didn't lean on him, I said too quickly. My dad gave me this look, tired almost. He was buying groceries before he was even out of school, he said. Don't tell me you didn't notice. I opened my mouth, then closed it, because I had noticed. I just never stopped it. Things at home kept getting tighter, money especially. Losing Ryan's help wasn't just emotional, it was practical. There were weeks where we had to decide what could wait. Groceries got stretched thinner. The car stayed unfixed longer than it should have. I picked up extra shifts. My husband did too. And Tyler, he tried, in his own way. Got a part-time job? Didn't last long. Said it was too much with everything going on. Just needed him. School was stressful. He'd try again later. Later, it kept moving. And every time it did, I felt this frustration building, but I kept pushing it down. Because I couldn't afford to lose patience with him too. Not when everything was already this fragile. Family started getting involved more. That made things complicated. Some of my husband's siblings sided with us immediately. Said things like, "You can't just abandon your kid over a mistake, and Ryan needs to grow up a little." That felt good to hear for about 5 minutes. Then it started to feel off. Because none of them were the ones Ryan refused to speak to. None of them had to sit in a house where one son acted like the other didn't exist anymore. My own siblings were more divided. One of them told me straight, "You lost him the moment you expected him to just deal with this." I told her that wasn't fair. She said, "Isn't it?" I stopped asking for opinions after that. Ryan stayed with my parents the whole time. Didn't come home, didn't visit, didn't ask for anything. That part, I noticed, he didn't need us. Not for money, not for support, not for anything. He kept working, kept going to school. Took the long way home just to avoid running into Tyler. I heard that from someone else. That he would literally change his route just to not cross paths. That kind of effort, it's not temporary anger. That's a decision. There was one moment, it keeps coming back to me. It was a few months after everything. I went to my parents' house to try and talk to him again. Not argue, not push, just talk. He was in the kitchen when I walked in. Same place where my dad had that conversation with me earlier. He looked up when he saw me, didn't look surprised, just neutral. "Can we talk?" I asked. He hesitated for a second, then nodded. We sat down. There was this long silence where I kept trying to figure out how to start without saying the wrong thing. I still said the wrong thing. "I know you're hurt," I said. He didn't react. "I just think, maybe you're being a little too hard on everyone." There it was, the line I shouldn't have crossed. His expression didn't change much, but something in his eyes did. "Everyone," he repeated. "I tried to fix it. I mean, your brother, he made a mistake and—" "A mistake," he said. Not loud. Just repeating it like he was testing how it sounded. I kept going anyway, I don't know why. "And there's a baby coming, Ryan. We can't just ignore that." He leant back in his chair slightly. Not defensive, not angry, just done. "You can do whatever you want," he said. "I'm not part of it." I felt my patience slipping then. "You're part of this family." "No," he said, cutting me off. Clear, simple, "I'm not." That hurt more than anything else he'd said up to that point. "You don't mean that," I said. He held my gaze. "I do." And the way he said it, there was no hesitation, no doubt, nothing left to work with. Jess is further along now, the baby will be here soon, and instead of things coming together, they've just fallen apart more. Tyler and my husband argue constantly now, about money, about responsibility, about what he's actually doing versus what he says he'll do. I'm stuck in the middle of that more often than not, trying to keep things from getting worse, trying to hold something together that already feels like it's slipping through my hands. My dad barely speaks to my husband anymore. Every conversation turns into something tense if they're in the same room. And Ryan is just gone from all of it. Alive, fine, moving forward. Just not with us. I keep thinking about that first time he brought groceries home. How relieved I felt. How I didn't stop him. How that just became normal. And now we're here. One son who won't even look at us. One son who needs more than we can realistically give. A baby coming into something that already feels unstable. And a house that doesn't feel like a home anymore. I still think we had to support Tyler. I don't see how we could have done anything else with a baby involved. But at the same time, I can't ignore what it cost. And I don't know if there was ever a way to do this without losing Ryan completely. Or if we just lost him a long time ago. And this was the moment it finally showed. What's unsettling about this situation isn't just the betrayal. It's how competence quietly became currency in this family and then got spent without anyone noticing. Look closely at Ryan's role. He wasn't just the responsible one. He was the buffer, the emotional shock absorber, the financial patch, the silent stabilizer. Every time something went wrong, he didn't explode, he compensated. That kind of kid doesn't get shaped overnight. That's years of subtle reinforcement. Not direct pressure, but a pattern. He steps up, ma, things get easier. Ma, no one interrupts the cycle. So when people say he's overreacting, they're missing the real fracture point. Ryan didn't just lose a girlfriend, he lost the entire framework of how he understood his place in the family. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment the crisis hit, his parents didn't just support Tyler. They reverted to the same system they always relied on. Stabilize the chaos, prioritize the immediate problem, and expect Ryan to absorb the rest. Except this time, he was the one bleeding. And instead of the system bending towards him for once, it kept running exactly as designed. That's why his reaction feels so cold. It's not impulsive, it's surgical. He didn't explode and then cool off. He assessed and exited. That's rare. Most people in his position would stay entangled, arguing, fighting, and trying to be understood. Ryan didn't do that. He removed access. That's not anger, that's clarity. The kind that usually comes after someone realizes that being the good one has never actually protected them. Now let's talk about the mother, because this is where it gets more complicated than just she chose the wrong kid. She didn't choose Tyler over Ryan in a conscious, emotional sense. She chose urgency over fairness. And that's a dangerous habit in struggling households. When you live in survival mode long enough, your brain starts ranking problems differently. Immediate, tangible issues, pregnancy, money, logistics, priority. Emotional damage, betrayal, trust collapse is secondary because it's not urgent. But emotional damage doesn't disappear just because it's not urgent. It compounds. What she calls being practical is actually a form of long-term neglect, not out of cruelty, but out of conditioning. And the worst part? She still thinks in those terms. Even at the end, she frames it as the following. We had to support Tyler. Maybe, but that's not the real question. The real question is the following. Why did supporting Tyler automatically require losing Ryan? That's the blind spot. Because there were other choices. Not about abandoning Tyler, but about acknowledging the scale of harm done to Ryan in a way that didn't immediately redirect the focus elsewhere. Instead, Ryan got categorized as the one who can handle it. That label sounds like praise, but it functions like permission to overlook. And once someone realizes that's how they've been seen all along, they stop performing that role. Not loudly, not dramatically, they just stop showing up. That's what this is, not a family conflict, a role rejection. And those are almost impossible to reverse once they've fully set in.